Good evening.
Good evening, Benny. Do we have to do an ape coin and create our own chain?
That's something that we've talked about that. We've talked about that before, but ultimately the issue with that is, those who have been around a while or know anything about that. You've got to have tons of transactions and volume and protection, and it's so easy for those things to be a big problem. And even when you've seen people like your Solanas, and I don't understand that it's a different beast altogether, but you look at Solana, you look at IMX, you look at all of these big projects that go out and start their own type of either a layer 2 or a EVM, that they inevitably end up with all sorts of security issues once they scale as well. It's a whole. I think in time it'll get better, but at the minute it's still a fairly risky proposition. Even like you saw last year, people were I don't know what the site is, but some of you who have been around a while will know there's a website that tells you how much it costs to take over a network for an hour to buy the hash power. Do you know what that site's called? I forget what it's called. Someone can put it in here if they can remember it. But you can basically go on and find out how much it costs to be able to launch a 51% attack. I think that our ultimate goal and focus needs to be on making sure that we've got products that click on and be used on any chain. But to go back to Phil's point, the issue is that when you build a game, you might have a problem with the engine that you use or the way you're programmed. But when then you're integrating with a blockchain, and then you've got a third-party provider that might do another verification process or whatever. You've got multiple links in a chain. It makes it much, much harder. There you go, crypto51.app. Jesus, you're quick, Crypto Joe. That's it. Cost of a 51% attack for different cryptocurrencies. For those who've never seen it, spend 5 minutes when you get a chance, click on that site and have a look, because it'll blow your mind. Could you maybe explain the pros and cons of Unity compared to Unreal Engine? I'm probably the least technically qualified person to do that, but when we were first looking into both of the different platforms, or looking at both Unreal versus Unity, Unity was the one that we sort of got advice on from a lot of people for many reasons, but one being the fact that they had much more developed tools. There was a lot, and they had a wider user base, and it was a lot easier to use. Unreal's made tons of upgrades. They're really going after those high-end graphics, and the trailers that come out of the stuff for Unreal's amazing. But you'll notice that if you look at all of the major metaverse projects that are kind of launching or building now, I don't know one that's using Unreal outside of Star Atlas, which is actually like a gaming platform, as we know. I also don't. Because we were looking at VR, we were told that the only option to us at that stage was Unreal. Was Unity, and Unreal was still some time away. Only 23 listeners in AMA RFOX 2020 for everyone. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think I actually joined a few Discords on the weekend and had a look at some of the different projects, and I was actually really horrified. It was probably a few hours that I shouldn't have spent down the rabbit hole. It was really quite. Some of them were very deserted, and others were full of just attackers, and it was. It's just a very, very negative space in general at this particular point in time, and I understand why. A lot of people are worried about what's going to happen next and watching their investments plummet across the board. It's a way for people to vent some frustration. Congrats on MVP launch. How will it transform into new version, the one images you're revealing? Will this be step-by-step upgrade of MVP, or in certain time totally replace the MVP with a new app? So George 74, the answer to that question is that the MVP is a sandbox. So it's not even Calanova. It is a sandbox environment. What will happen is there will be an iteration. There is already a build going on simultaneously, which is heading towards the way that you'd see Calanova. I'll use that as an example in the pictures that you've seen. What we are going to do, though, is upgrade the sandbox environment. But how basically it has to be explained to a person like me who's a tech tard. The difference between what we were about to show you, which is the next iteration of a sandbox, and taking that to AAA, because we asked this question just today and got the confirmation on how that works. So what they do is they basically further enhance the images that you see. They add detail. They just literally go laser focused, build greater detail to everything that you're looking at and seeing, and they focus on one thing at a time. So to give you an example of what you'll see in the upgraded MVP sandbox is you'll see assets that aren't going to totally be thrown away in any way, shape or form. This is modeled more on the Genesis part in the middle of the 4 quarters, and some of those assets are actually going to be featured in the Genesis area. But as you've seen, if you look at Calanova and you look at Arcimoto, the pictures that we've put out, that's where the confusion, I think, stems for some people, because they look at that and they say, how do you go from getting what you've got now to the final version like we've seen in the pictures? And that's why it's really important for us to keep reiterating that what you're seeing is an MVP sandbox, which is an environment for us to be able to test and showcase some of the different products and services that we have. This is by no means what Calanova or anything will look like. And the reason that there are shops in there and the reason that they're situated where they are is because we're trying to give the shop owners also access, as you know, to shop owner portals. And once we start releasing templates of shops and we give people the opportunity to get in there and have a play and a feel and to upgrade, they'll be able to do all of that, so that by the time the actual final product for Calanova or Arcimoto launch, people will be used to using all the tools. They'll be able to deploy quickly. Yes, so it goes from what you're currently seeing, which is a sandbox MVP, to actually deploying the different quarters one by one. Imagine if we were a Telegram at the moment. Those were the days. I tell you what, mate, the thing is, we've said this a million times, and I'll make this very, very clear because it's extremely important to make this statement. This is supposed to be a line of code version of what we're going to plug things into, so that people can sort of get that experience. We can gain feedback on functionality, because obviously the aesthetics and the actual views that you'll be seeing will completely and fundamentally change. And we've had this before, so we kind of tried to prep the team and get them ready for comments from people that are onlookers that might not have an Oculus or might not be heavily involved in the project or might not follow or read what you put out. Because the thing is, we've before shown something as we've gone and been told, if you remember the first walkthrough video we ever did, people turned around and said, so this is the final product? What a load of shit. And we were saying, it's a walkthrough and it's a progress update. But if you don't provide the progress updates and you don't have the early versions, people turn around and say, what are you actually doing? Scam project, not building anything, not doing anything. You're always caught between a rock and a hard place. But we make no bones about it. We have to get an MVP out that we can bring the functionality up to speed, because the fact is you can't iterate as fast or with proper user feedback in a laboratory type of environment that is isolated. You need to get it out into the public's hands. You need to get people using it, and we need to be able to work out how we're integrating our other products and services into it. So I don't mind it, to be honest. I think it's good that people give feedback or opinions, and I understand why people would say if that's the final product, we're Suncor. This is an MVP. We're on the right track. We understand what we're doing. We understand how to get to that end point. So we've been through this every single time the token price goes down. And if you go into those other groups, and I'm sure many of you are in other Discord groups, it can be a pretty toxic place when the market's down. So we do what we do. We understand exactly the type of reaction that you get when you bring out something that's an MVP. But it's not going to stop us bringing out MVPs. It's not going to stop us bringing products to the market. It's not going to stop us iterating and getting that feedback and making changes as we go. It's really important to do that. Is it possible to market the most up-to-date MVP version? As I think I understand, what we see is a bit behind of what is up to date. So it's not a matter of just marketing it. So what happens is when you build a new view and a new world, the navigation part's easy, and being able to walk around and have a look at that or don a headset and move around is not the hard part. What people don't understand is that the fact that to integrate stuff like crypto payments, you also have to integrate all of the stuff that we've already built, like porting, multiplayer, chat functionality, all of that type of stuff into the build. So it's a matter of taking the more up-to-date version and making sure that you've got your underpinning, your engine attached and integrated. That's what's really important. So technically, we could go out, show a video, do a walkthrough, show what it's like, all the rest of it, spoilers. That's cool, but the integration piece still needs to go into the same functionality that we've got at this particular point in time in the version that you see. Elon must change his profile picture to Bored Ape Yacht Club. We just need him to mint a cog. You saw what happened. He changed his picture to Bored Ape Yacht Club, and the price plummeted from, I think it was 131.90 to, I was watching it plummet to 119, and yeah, it was good to read through Martin Vu's explanation above for the MVP and 3D rendering for another tech tard like me. I mean, lots of people that aren't involved have some good input, and some people are experienced in building stuff and games. And I think that if you have a look at VR, people did say it's a bit ambitious to build what you're trying to build in VR, but that's the way it's all going. Everybody's trying to do that. It is good to get different opinions. Sometimes we pick up little bits and pieces from every different explanation, but I think if it was really easy to do what we're doing, there'd be 10 comparisons that we can say, here's 10 VR-based blockchain metaverses that have launched and are out in the market, but you just can't do that because they don't exist. And there's a reason that they don't exist, because it's bloody hard, and there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things you have to integrate, and there's security, and there's a lot that goes into this, and a lot of moving pieces, and it's not easy. And again, if it was, I would say show me the 10 other examples that we can put into a conversation and sit around and see which one works better or which one functions better. Anyone who's pushing something out at this particular stage this early on in the piece is definitely a first mover. And as we all know, and we know how the story goes, the first movers have the advantage. So what we've got to do is make sure that we listen, we iterate, we progress, and we work as quickly as we can to give the creators the tools so that people can come in and help build stuff. When do you see the other products plug in? Do we see? So XP, we're already working on the concepts for how to plug in the other products that are just about to drop, and you know what they are. So there's the cool part about what we've got now is we've got a platform that will allow us to trial and showcase multiple integration methods and styles. And that's really good for us to get a heap of feedback, engagement, numbers, and data back, because nobody knows if that hasn't been done before. So it's going to be really, really good. Will the avatars in the vault be improved as well? They look like potatoes at the moment. The avatars that you currently see, we use Ready Player Me, which is a I guess it's one of the most utilized or used avatar systems, and then everybody uses different skeletal systems to move them around and all the rest of it. So, but Ready Player Me is the one that's really partnering with a lot of people and trying to be in as many metaverses as possible. We've also stated that we're building our own system as well. So I heard a couple of people come back and sort of say, I don't really think the avatars are up to scratch. They don't look that great. They're not really feature rich enough or whatever. But if you're in the vault with a headset on and you're looking at what Ready Player Me have built as far as detail and attention and all the rest of it, it's not bad, especially considering you're able to whip that up in 10 seconds. But we do see the need for having our own system, so that's what we've been working on. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, Benny. Oh, it's always the case. But the thing is, I think Josh, if you've been in this space for any period of time, if you don't have thick skin, you're not in this space anymore, The thing is that what we're doing, let's just put that into context because it's a good point you bring up. Let's put it into context. If you're building in this space and you're trying to build stuff that challenges legacy systems and you're trying to build stuff that hasn't properly been regulated and hasn't been tested at scale, hasn't been tested for load, and you're trying to build something that people can't visualize, can't Google, can't look up, reactions, all at this stage, all reactions are based on whether or not token prices are appreciating or not appreciating, right? Because you don't have the scale of users to be able to provide you accurate assessments of where certain things are headed or the direction that things are going in. You don't have established product market fit for a lot of what exists. And when we have seen a few projects sort of reach that critical point and sort of say, hey, let's see how we scale with this, or let's get some users in. As we know, the story has it, everything crashes and people say, I'm going to have to build my own stuff. If it was that easy to build your own stuff, then there'd also be a lot of other stuff that's built that scales really easily. Ethereum's got to be one of the biggest networks obviously out there, and people still have issues with Ethereum, as we know, and it's not just 2 or 3 weeks to fix these issues. They've been working on this stuff for years. But ultimately speaking, if you're going to go out into a brand new technology space, try and challenge everything that currently exists and try and build with tools that aren't yet ready on technology that's not ready to handle that type of scale, you've got to expect that the people that are invested, who are the audience, are going to get upset when it doesn't pan out the way that you want it to pan out. So that's something going in, right? If you don't understand that, you should never, ever try and build or do something in this space, because you're just going to get slaughtered. And if, when you get slaughtered, you take it to heart, then, it's pretty easy to sort of, I understand why some people that are younger or some of the kids that start in the space sort of say, fuck this, I don't have to deal with this stuff, I'm out of here. But for people like myself and for a large number of the teams, we read all the comments. We see everything that's mentioned and said. And what I do, for one, speaking for myself, is I store that away, and I think to myself, I cannot fucking wait until we reach our endpoint and we can turn around and say, there you go. And I'm not the type of person, and we're not the type of company to go out and say, I told you so. But there'll be a fair bit of internal silence on the inside of our heads. Will be saying, I told you so. The thing is, what we've built with what we've had to build with and what we're trying to do in this space, we wouldn't still be here unless we were here to see this thing out, and we will see it out, and we will make sure that it's kick-ass. A little fuddo is okay, gives us cheap RFOX. Mate, that's a great point for those who've been around for a while. God, any project, if you've been in any project in the space, you've been through 5, 6, 7 FUD storms. Some of them are big enough to end these projects, or what I should say is end the people that run the projects' belief or. But we find ourselves every single time there's a down market having the exact same conversation. It's literally like a broken record, and we're in trouble, and it might not bounce back again. And then the same people go out and tweet, "I'm rich." It's just the same procession over and over again. Yeah, and we are making progress, obviously. The thing is, to put something out in a market like this, and to put something out in a technology movement like this, it's brave. You've got to be brave. You've got to go out there, and you've got to know that you're going to be up against it. Have you looked into any of the polished VR games out there for development, inspiration, business acquisitions, or collabs? We're always looking, for sure, and we play a lot of VR games just to try them, try the chat functions and features and all the rest of it. As you know, the VR gaming world is nothing like the console world. Console world is reeling off AAA games left, right, and centre. The VR world is very much developing, and it's you just can't simply do in VR what you can on consoles yet. It's just not possible. Yeah. So and just thinking you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The VR space in itself and code behind it, 100%. You could acquire a company and focus on the blockchain integrations that might speed the process. Yeah, but I think a lot of the VR companies or projects are kind of looking at doing their own bits and pieces where they can. Definitely it's possible, but again, we're at that point now where a lot of what we're doing, code is law, and a lot of what we're doing, we will soon start building the tools and deploying that on our servers, and then we'd have the creator economy. You need to be the person who's developing that code, if that makes sense. So yes, we could acquire, for sure, if the right company came along, but ultimately we're very much trying to lock down as much of the code stuff as we possibly can now to an internal group, I mean. So because the more you're working with the third-party providers and stuff, you can't be doing that. This is the bread and butter, right? This is our future. RFOX BFOX ratio dipping, isn't it? Good time to swap some. We've looked at doing it ourselves. We've had multiple conversations internally about, what could you do? We've looked at buybacks. We've looked at different ways to do it. The ratio is good. It's really good at the moment. There's ways that we can do that. We're looking at all options, of course. I think that the price is the ratio is very healthy at the moment, for sure. And again, I've got to be careful because people keep saying to me, what are you steering towards or leaning towards, VFOX or RFOX? It's not a steer either way. Cogs trade, Benny. I still haven't looked. Sorry, mate. I'll try and get to it tonight. I've still got a ton of meetings though. Yeah. So, yeah. What we do is Ninja. Hang on. Sorry, I've just lost the screen. What do you guys do with the ape attached to Minty and all the rest of it? Okay, so we bought that for the project, the Minty, but we've been subject to a number of drops of different things, and we're just sort of hanging on to that because we're waiting to see what happens with the project and see if it does well. Obviously, it's growing in monstrous proportions, but there was just a land drop and all sorts of stuff recently as well. So it's good to be involved and have a look at how they do things. Did you buy other deed land for RFOX? No, we didn't. But you get one automatically for holding apes. What's the current ratio? Not sure. What is it at the moment? 2 days ago. Dude, I've been waiting about 14 months now to sort out a trade with Benny. Don't hold your breath. But you know what yours is, Adelaire. I've already advised you what it's going to be. I've done like 10 trades in the last few months with Benny. Just kidding. I'm going to have to go all of him to start complaining on Twitter every day. Advice for people emotionally wrecked by the market. Good question and good advice. Log off, look after your family, get laid, forget about your tokens for a while, then come back with new motivation later on. Market swings. And to be honest, it's a very difficult thing to go through, especially if you're going through your first cycle, and it's very easy to get frustrated, and we understand that as well. And my advice to you in general would be that what you've written there is pretty good advice. What I always say to people is don't let it eat you alive. And I've done it before, like you all have. If back in the old days when Blockfolio first came out, that was the first real app that we had that we were able to sort of refresh and have a look at what our portfolios were worth and all the rest of it. And I remember being out with friends at a barbecue on a Saturday and refreshing, as you do, impulsively and compulsively, and seeing, thousands of dollars every single time you swipe your finger down, just falling and falling and falling. And I remember feeling really, overwhelmed by it and thought, I've got to get out of here. I've got to leave. And you then what happens is you look back a year later and you think to yourself, geez, that was like a small blip in the road. And now look at what happens as far as growth is concerned. It's a matter of just zooming out. You've got to keep looking at things. And I guess the most important thing is that if you're looking at the projects that you've got and what you're invested in and all the rest of it, my main metric as well was when markets go quiet, there's a lot of projects that actually disappear. You don't hear from them, and then they just pop back up when the markets come back into favor. And I always used to look at them and I used to reassess what I was invested in. And I think it's just really important, like Lars says, just step away, zoom out, understand that we're all very, very early in the space. And again, if you need testimony that we're early, all I can say is think about how early in product iteration, how many actual product users you have of the technology that's been deployed in the space versus the number of token holders. It's a stark contrast and difference. The ratio is extremely small. We are so early, and there will be a number of companies that come out of this space that are monsters, just as we saw with the .com boom with your Facebooks and Amazons and Googles and all the rest of it that came out of it. So you've just got to be patient, and you've got to make sure that you do have the ability to zoom out and don't overinvest in stuff. If you're too emotional, it makes it very, very difficult. I'm a bit behind, aren't I? Yeah, Lars, that's exactly right. It is. It's a cycle. Oh, dude, I'll be such a so many haters on RFOX. They only focus on price, not what RFOX is actually building. Every time RFOX goes down, I thought you said RFOX was solid, bro. Look at the price. My response: just wait. Yeah, mate. I can tell you that I had that happen the last cycle, and then it moved right up, and then everybody started coming back to me and saying, "Oh, I knew it was going to do that," and I just, I bump those people and just mute them and don't listen to them anymore. I'm happy to answer their questions in a down market and try and make sure that people that get their questions answered and all the rest of it. But if it's like a ton of negative type of non-constructive sort of stuff, I'm still happy to answer that in the down market. But then when the market improves, I'm not really interested in chinking a glass with some people and saying, yeah, it's a very weird thing how people swing. Island Boys, God, please no. Surely a coffee shop in the vault, catch up with friends, coffee and cake makes sense, right? 100%. We're already playing around with a couple of ideas, and we go in there and talk about that type of stuff all the time. The social element's huge. People keep saying you should have a bar, and the reason people say have a bar is because it's where you socialise. And I was sort of saying you can't have that same euphoric feeling, but people were saying you just all get a beer and you sit around and you drink beer and talk together wherever you are in your respective places. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves for sure. But I love the idea of any type of themed social space where we can hang out and should talk and chat to each other. Illuvium have their game in beta out. Will COGS eventually feature in their game? I don't think Phil's there, but
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm here. Hold on. Yeah, I think while we'd love to work with other companies eventually, one, Illuvium is in beta, so let's see what happens there, right? And two, we already signed two other game companies to produce games for us. And then eventually games will be evolving from the vault. So we have a lot on our own plate, even before we start working with other companies. But again, Illuvium is in beta, so let's see what growing pains they experience as well.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, no, I can't let you say that. People have given reasons for their dissatisfaction, and this is legitimate. You have no right to laugh. Many people think that the graphics of the Vault are of poor quality. I don't want to go back to that yet, but it's a reality. It's not professional as much as I'm against those who denigrate without reason, as I am against those who denigrate constructive criticism on the pretext that it does not go your way. You have to be fair, as the ambassador pointed out. So the really simple response to that is, if you're going to bring out something that you say, I want it to be awesome graphics, right? And I want the picture quality to be amazing. That takes time to develop, as we all know, especially in VR. So the thing is, if you wait for the visuals to be at a level that people are promoting as, this is our game trailer, this is what's coming for us, this is what we're building, and you think to yourself, good luck trying to build that, especially in VR, and integrate blockchain of one chain, let alone multi-chains. If you wait for a period where people say, holy shit, those graphics are amazing, you will be miles away. And by that time, you would be at the back of the queue. And you'd have to be doing something pretty freaking amazing to sort of put yourself back in a position of power. So what you need to do is effectively start testing all of the function, and need to make sure that you've got integrated payments through your headset, chat options, that you've got the multiplayer aspects and all the rest of it. So to do that, what you can do is two things. You can actually just put those things out and sort of say, okay, here's a box, and walk around in a box. Or you can start iterating and saying, we're not fussed about what the graphics look like at this particular point in time. Here's what it's going to look like. So sit on that, park that thought. But here is an iteration where you can get in and walk around and interact with the function. But people confuse those two things and turn around and say, hang on, an MVP should be really polished. That's the opposite of what MVP means. And an MVP should do this, 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 and this, and it should be AAA standard or grade. And the fact is that, like I say, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want AAA grade, you have to wait. If you want functionality and you want to see a company that's actually building a VR metaverse with blockchain integration, then it's going to be ugly for a bit. We're making it a little bit prettier for the sandbox now, and we're working bloody fast with a very decently sized team to make sure that we integrate and get this stuff iterated at a fast rate, and you will see rapid iteration. But it's really, really important to point out. And what I would say is, again, I'd go back to the same point that we keep making over and over again. Line up the top 5 VR metaverses with blockchain integration and have a look at how they compare, and you'll come back and you'll say, I can't do that because there isn't 5. So we're moving first, we're moving fast, And we could make a VR metaverse space that looks AAA, and you can walk around and go, this is fun as hell. But there'll be no blockchain integration. Won't do any of the things that it needs to do. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to build products that allow us to head towards mass adoption. And to do that, it's about function. The form follows. The form's the easiest part. There's so many people in the world that can build the form. There's so few people in the world that can actually get the function to work. Otherwise, again, there would already be 5, 10, 15, 20 that we can compare. And it's nature. It's the nature of the space. And from a token holder's perspective, to get away from we're being compared against projects ads. And it's very, very hard to beat an ad. I'm watching beautiful images of Vault new versions on rfoxvault.com. Do you have this kind of quality for end product from the start, or did it evolve into this during the work? So George74, the answer probably isn't what you want to hear. The honest truth is, if you've watched us for a while or you've followed us for a while, you would have seen that we turned around and said, we were happy to build something of good quality, of reasonable quality. Because for us, again, it was all about the function and blockchain adoption and getting everything integrated. And then we realized some time back that what we had to do was really head towards that AAA, like the pictures on the website. We had to go towards that. And the reason was a lot of people still doubted whether building a metaverse or a virtual space was actually the right idea. They turned around and said, you talk about being a data-driven organization, but show us all the VR metaverse companies that are building, and there wasn't any. So when we started getting a little bit of a sniff that we were definitely on the right track, we turned around and said, hang on, we're going to get one shot at this, and it's hard to build. So we either build something that we think, yeah, it's a reasonable quality and it's cool and it's engaging and all the rest of it, or we can go back and say, we've got to build something that can be measured against some of the guys that say they're coming through. So we sort of pulled down what we had and started from square one from a graphics perspective. Now, that's the other thing that people keep saying is that, oh, did you lose all the work you've done, or what have you done with this, or how did that happen, or we saw this. But the thing is that in that time period since we started talking and showing you, we've built in stuff like the multiplayer and the chat, and we're doing the blockchain integration for multiple chains and all the rest of it. That stuff's huge. That stuff's massive. It's complicated. And as far as we know, and like I said, very happy for someone to tell us that we're not, but as far as we know, I don't know of any other VR metaverse space or any VR thing that has wallet integration inside the blockchain at this stage. So that was a huge technical feat. And we know it is because we've got a lot of projects that you guys would all think are household names. We've got people from those projects asking us how we're doing it. So we know that this is not solved for a lot of people. Do you know anything of the Lady of Crypto interview in the Vault, or Paul Barron getting in there, or anyone else, the right things in the space and getting there? Piyush, do you want to answer that one?
Benny, I already answered. Lady of Crypto actually just did the AMA with Benny this afternoon. We are hoping to release it early next week. And as for Paul Barron, we are also talking to him. We'll get him in as soon as possible as well.
Deja Vu, will Vault graphic improve? Is he in the chat as well? Maybe not. Some people. See, that's the other thing that you've got to be really, really careful about. You bring out an MVP, and we all understand what a minimum viable product. Well, we don't actually. Let's be honest, we don't. Otherwise, we would keep having the conversation. But people think that because you've actually, and this is a crypto thing. It's not necessarily a legacy industry thing. It's a crypto thing. People think that if you bring out an MVP, that is your final product. They think that is what you've built. So, you know, we see comments say stuff like, you'd think after all of this time that we'd have something that looks a lot better than that. and you think to yourself, hang on a second, this is a metaverse that's being set up to run multi-chain, that you can actually purchase things in the actual headset with crypto. This is literally like, you've got to look at what it is. But I get it. People are invested in 30, 40 coins and they're turning around and saying, I don't have time to read the update. I know with NFT projects and stuff that I'm following or invested in so I can see what they're doing, I quite often circle back and have a look at where they're up to, and I go, I missed a drop, or I didn't know that was happening, or whatever. And I don't go in there and sort of say, you guys are idiots, you're scammers, what did you do? I actually have a look at it and I say, why did I miss that? And then I say, hey, that's cool. That's given me an idea. We need to be making sure that when we release stuff, especially drop related or whatever, that we don't have to rely on a person coming in every 3 hours and checking a social channel. How do we get to a point where those people are rewarded and not feel punished? Because so many of the projects I go into after I see that, and there's a ton of people in there saying, you gave away my spot and I'm a holder so that you could sell it to somebody else. And I think to myself, this is like systemic of the space and the industry as well. So when people come in and see the MVP, they think that's their product, that's the vault, that's Calanova, when in actual fact it's a sandbox environment showcasing what's coming. The classic triangle, there you go. Graphics, functionality, cost, time, pick two. Can't have everything day one, especially on a pretty short dev cycle. Seems like a solid MVP. Yeah, well, it's working and it's doing what we've asked it to do, Ramses. So we're happy from the functionality perspective. And again, if people were sort of saying, you know, if we had a product that we brought out that that people said it looks great, but I can't talk to the other person or I can't interact with that person, when's chat coming and all the rest of it, then and it was supposed to be about function, we'd be pissed off with that. But the actual visual side of things, we've got people working on that. That's progressing and it's coming along nicely. So we're not fussed about that part of it. What I am fussed about, and I am always worried about, is how does the blockchain integration side go? Will the chains that we're integrating with be around? Are they secure? What happens with we're relying on third parties' technology and building. So there's a lot of stuff that we've got to look into. Worst thing that could happen would be if current graphics or pushback on them force the team to do a whole rewrite now while momentum is rolling just for that. They're in a good engine and can upgrade as they go for sure. Yeah, this is the easy part. That's the part that I'm less fussed about. Valued and hype projects out there with buggy products and crap graphics, sandbox, pixel browser game, metaverse, Axie, crap graphics, browser game, Decentraland, crap graphics, browser game, metaverse. If you honestly mean graphics matter most in the space, sorry to tell you, you're wrong. 100%, mate. And as we all know, like I was talking about this the other night, and it's a project we follow closely, is Gods Unchained and IMX, and people were saying in the Gods Unchained channel, you know, it's not as fun as it used to be. It's harder to earn rewards. And now I've noticed that the game's not really that fun to play. And then people were responding with, it's never been fun to play. None of these games are fun. And you just sort of realize that we're at that such an early stage that it's all about, and the reason people are bullish on things is because of the money they can earn, right? We're at that stage. The game, the money earned and extremely fun to play, coupled with, and like Ramses said, it's a pick 2 or 3 type of situation. How significant milestone was launch of MVP if compared to all previous ones in RFOX history? Which will be the next one with the same level of importance? So it is, I'd say it's the most important. And the reason it's the most important is, and I know it's a weird analogy, but I keep using it, it's like a power board. We needed that to put the plugs into. So each thing that we have in its isolated form as a standalone product is a standalone product, and it can be okay or it can be great, depending. But when you combine them together, that's what gives us the advantage, because other projects have very polished focus on, or very polished products in the works on one particular avenue, focused on one particular thing. But giving the people the ability to couple those things together is very important. So as far as the next one with the same level of importance, so each of the products that we've got coming up now are important in their own right and important how they click together. And the next phase that will be really important is the tool phase. Once we start putting the tools into creators' hands to allow people to be able to combine the usage of those tools to the product. So for example, TV and NFTs, or NFTs and finance, and combining things, and to be able to plug those into the vault and into our ecosystem, that's what's going to be the next really important part for us, because we give these people good tools that are easy to use and allow you to earn. And if we do go into a global recession, or we do have a situation where people are looking for other revenue streams, and we've got tools that make that easy, then it puts us in a really good position. But yes, nothing, in my opinion, Vault launch is and will be the most important launch. Everything revolves around it. And again, Kid with a mower, as we know, what we keep hearing, and I keep quoting it, but Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn, the founder of LinkedIn, says, if you're not embarrassed by your first product release, then you were too late. And that's the thing. The thing is, people want a really, really polished working product, which in this space doesn't exist at this particular point in time. So you either go out, you put out a product, a basic MVP, you iterate, and you develop fast, and as fast as sustainable, and you learn as you go. You watch what people are doing, you collect the information in relation to what features people like, what they don't like, what they use, what they're buying, and you quickly work out, and that gives you a massive advantage, because you're no longer in a laboratory, you're no longer in a test environment, you're out there and it's real. You always thought that the MVP was the most valuable product. That's from the players, huh? It's not just the graphics. We have to feel the soul. It doesn't matter which graphics RFOX is going for, but users need to feel a universe. This is the case for Sand, for example. RFOX at the moment is insipid.
Benny,
Okay.
QT's not actually in the chat, so they've heard nothing of what you've already said.
Yeah. But a soul's important, and the point that he or she makes is important. It is important to have that. But again, we're going back to testing form, and now we're about to start introducing events and ways that we can sort of get people interacting in that space. But again, while you're doing that at this particular point in time, what you're doing is you're focusing on the social component and the social angle. And that's going to be cool for building stuff. We've got a couple of really good ideas for this, but ultimately, the thing that we want to try and escape is that as Sand and Decentraland, as many of you have pointed out before, the user numbers are still low on a daily basis, and you can go long periods of time without seeing anybody. So what's really important is to, especially when you've got a smaller base, is to have focused and targeted, and I won't give away too much, but focused and targeted times where you have lots of users in at one particular period of time, and there's a reason that would make them go into there at that particular time, and you've got to see how the interaction plays out, what people are responding to. And I think that all of these things are a long way away from, not being able to move in there because you're shoulder to shoulder, but the soul is important, and that's something that we can inject before we have all of the graphics finalized and all of the function finalized. There's a lot of stuff we can do now. The starting point for the vault is when I can walk up to a nude of Josh in his shop, touch his belly button, and purchase that NFT for 100 ETH. So it's a pretty specific thing, mate. MVP is commonly used to refer to someone as the best. Maybe wording on social should be changed to trial or demo. That's it. Yeah, it's an industry-wide thing. I mean, it's a global thing for the minimum viable products. But yes, you could, I mean, we could say that the current vault is the sandbox environment and really hammer that point home. I mean, the thing is that even if you do that, it's still gonna be to the benefit of those people who want to read or to follow, as opposed to people that just sort of will blow in and blow out based on, I better have a look because the price has gone up. Is there an announcement? I better look, the price has gone down. Has something bad happened? Minimum viable product, often cobbled together to use as pitches for a proper funding round. Crypto skews all this does for sure. Okay, still going on about that guy. If everything has been said, then so much the better. Just wrote some questions. This is not a 3-hour dissertation. Okay. But you keep going on about the same thing, which is being addressed during the current AMA. If you would tune in, all of your questions and concerns would be answered. Plus, you have the opportunity to ask the CEO directly. Yeah, for those who've been around for a while. So, anyways, yep. Okay. MVP is traditional. Guild of Guardians use pre-alpha. Yeah, actually, Lars, there's a pretty good document based on this where people are talking about this in the commercial space. They talk about what pre-alpha versus alpha versus, and in software and game development and all the rest of it, they can be a bit different. So there's different definitions of it for sure. Avoid opportunities for people to accidentally set expectations too high. I think, Ramses, to your earlier point, it's really sort of something that we hear. Sorry about the baby going off in the background. It's something that we hear a lot with expectations in crypto. People assume that a product release, even if it is an MVP, relates to massive skyrockets going off and price going up and all the rest of it. So, yeah, it is. You've got to balance expectations and patience with impatience, and it's not easy. And as I said, if you want to go back to function, and you want to get out and start practicing your crypto integration through the headset, and you want to trial stuff with a real audience, you've got to go out early. If you waited until the graphics were amazing and you went out with a really polished product and you haven't done that proper testing with a live audience and all the rest of it, you've just wasted so much time, so much money, so much effort. So the trade-off is either going out with a complete line of code, or you go out with just basic building blocks of what the space might look like, show people what you're building towards, and then make a beeline for as fast as you possibly can to get to that point. But the expectations will always be like that. And again, going back to the previous point, if we went and did something that looked a bit AAA-ish now, but without any of the integration pieces or the ability to have any blockchain integration, you get called fraudulent and you put up something that looks good but doesn't really work. And anybody could do that. And that's why people are not doing that, because they realise that that would be the absolute death of your project if you did something like that. So you've got to go out with the function first. Just so you know, only first 23 listens to Hanaha. My investment strategy, VFOX. I don't know how many times I have. I reckon it's becoming the most common conversation I have is as soon as you get past the talk of metaverses and where we think they might be going, is VFOX, RFOX. What should I do? You think you hear the son in the background? Yeah, he was going nuts. The missus has got it now. Can you please let us know when full transparency on COGS Tube's earning through Slam would be announced, and in full detail on burning for avatars known, please? Phil, you have to tackle part of that, but the second part, as far as burning of avatars is known, burning COGS is known. We've published the numbers, and what we've stated is that that will happen in June. So we'll let you know exactly when in June. As far as the tube, I'm not sure if you're still there, Phil.
Yeah, sorry, was on mute again. As far as COGS Tube's earning through Slam, there are many discussions happening within the next couple weeks between the games team and the other ventures. So I don't want to say when, because I know you guys, like to hold our feet over the fire. But we kind of have to look at what we have and make sure the mechanics that we develop still apply. Because, I mean, our biggest concern is security, right? So we just have to make sure all that is in place before we can announce details.
Yeah. So love it when you comment in chat. What kind of excited? Love being able to make these always watching. Appreciate that. Yeah, she is an OG. Have a great night. Everyone says one up. Yeah, I'd love to earn with my tubes, but sure as heck don't want to lose them. Take your time. It's also another good point, just because we've sort of done what we can do as far as sort of asking people what they'd be interested in doing with the avatars and the tubes. And as you know, we've set aside 5,000 places, and we've got a lot of people. I think it's probably more than half now that have said, I'm not going to burn tubes for avatars. It's too hard to collect and get those sets completed. So it's going to be a really interesting bit of game theory, especially when we start to introduce and announce some of the other things that come together very shortly. Okay. How many VFOX do I need to maintain a decent pace of income based on predictions? That's a good question. We've got some projections that we've made previously. We're currently sitting down to look at those again now. But ultimately, I think anything that you make is a projection, and obviously the transactional volumes will be made up of who builds in the space and who connects to the products and services that we've got. So it's going to be really interesting to see those. How's your human MVP going at home? He's my human MVP. Vitals, all good, conscious. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, human MVP is going pretty well, mate. Still trying to learn new words and sprout off new things to say. Still learning, but learning fast. It's amazing how quickly they were starting to laugh now as well. My 5-month-old spewed on the top of my head today. That's pretty good. I haven't had that joy yet. I've seen a number of people on those home videos holding their kid up above their head and playing along and making goo go noises and seeing the baby throw up straight into their mouth. So at least it was on your head, minute. But okay, so I've got to jump off for more meetings. But thank you very much for attending, guys. I really appreciate it. I understand that it's a difficult market, and you still make the time to come all the time, which I appreciate hugely. I hope I've been able to answer your questions. in a way that makes sense and to your satisfaction. And please don't be afraid to ever raise any feedback, suggestions, whatever. And again, if I have to answer the same question over and over and over again, then I need to get better at communicating that more widely. So that's something that we do take very seriously, and we do listen. Like I said, we listen to all the feedback, we process it all, we try and work out how or if to respond and why. And the thing is that people have some really valid feedback and things for us to consider, and we do appreciate that feedback. So keep it coming. Have a fantastic night and day, and look forward to really catching up with you again on Friday, and maybe we'll do a giveaway to end the weekend off the right way. Thank you very much for your time. Really do appreciate it, and have an absolutely cracking evening, guys.